Welcome, everyone. It's so nice having all of you join us. I'm Rabbi Cutler, Senior Rabbi of Adat Israel Congregation, and I'm joined today with Faheema Qaaydi as well as Lisa Nerman to be talking about refugee resettlement here in Toronto and the role of the Jewish community in settling refugees and the importance that our community places on this. And for me, certainly, this is an area which very much speaks to my heart, considering the history of the Jewish people, often as communities who've traveled and who've needed to seek refuge in other countries. And so I'd like to begin with you, Qaaydi. Tell us your story. Tell us where you were brought up and how you found your way to Canada.
Hi, everyone. My name is Faheema. I am an interim settlement worker. I work at the JICE Toronto. It's Jewish Immigrant Aid Services that serves refugees to settle in Canada. And I'm a full-time student. I study as a social service worker at Seneca College. This is my second semester, so I am. It's an honor to work and to study as well as a refugee here in Canada. So, to be honest, like my journey as a refugee is, I don't know where to begin. It's pretty difficult to become a refugee and to start from zero. It's not easy to leave everything behind and leave the family behind and leave like all the future that you were visioning for yourself behind. So it's heartbreaking, but like I'm glad that I'm here and I have another vision of myself and I could support my family. So back in Iraq, when I was a refugee, I am from a religious called Yazidi. So Yazidi religion, they worship Tawsi Malik, and then they worship God. When they pray, they look at the sun, and then to pray. So that's where I am from. In our religion in Iraq, we have it's very difficult for women to become educated, to become independent. So we were usually depending on our men, and even our men, they were not able to work same as other men in the other religion. So we have always facing religious difficulties back in our country because of our religion, Islam. Like people there, they don't like our religion. They wanted to destroy it. So when I first, so I had a vision of myself to become independent, to become an employee. So I studied very hard in the village of where I was raised to be independent and to have a good future for myself and for my children, so that they would become independent and not usually like live a poor life like I lived. So I studied very hard. I was studying day and night because the reason I was studying day and night to become educated is that my parents, they were not educated. They didn't have a chance to study and to go to colleges due to religious differences back in Iraq. So my mother and father, they were not educated. They were not able to support me and to like help me with my homework, with other stuff, uh, to enhance my learning literacy. So I was the only one who like teaching myself. Even the teachers, we didn't have any tutors back home in our village. The teachers, they were coming from the big cities. We didn't have access to any support. Only the teachers, they will come 2 to 3 hours to our school, and then they would go. That's it, and everything was fall on our shoulder. So for me, I said it's okay for me uh, to work very hard and to put a lot of efforts into my education as long as I become independent. So I studied very hard. I had a vision of myself to become an employee, to become a teacher, and to provide support to my family.
And what
However,
happened, Faheema, that got in the way of that dream?
yeah, that's a good question, actually. So when I was starting to go, like I finished the high school, we had up to high school in our village. When I applied for college to be like I applied for college, and then I got an approval to be of becoming a physics teacher for high school. So I didn't have a chance to go to university where I was accepted due to religious differences, because there in the big city they were not allowing Yazidi girls to universities and to become educated. And then the even inside the university, sometimes our friends, they were supportive to us. However, outside of college in the city, there was many atrocities and terrorism, that they were abducting Yazidi girls, and God knows where they were taking them. So that was the what comes to my way for not finishing my education. And then it was a huge impact on me for not reaching that goal. So, and then my husband, he was in university as well. He was studying to become a mathematic teacher, a math teacher. And then outside of college, he received many letters that they would kill him if he doesn't leave the college. So we were forced to leave and then to head to other countries for safety and peace.
So from
And
Iraq, where did you go and who came with you?
so me, my husband, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law, we went to Turkey. I was we all four of us, we head to Turkey to become a refugee. Yeah, I remember life in Turkey was not easy as well. There was, like, for me, I would say for 2 years I was there, I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't buy, like, we would just take some simple belongings of us, and then we lived there. And from refugee support system, they were giving us once a day food, cooked food. Sometimes we liked it, sometimes we don't liked it. Like, we couldn't eat it because it was not our meal. However, we depend on it, so we didn't have any other chance to lean on. And his brother, my husband's brother, they were sending us, like, sometimes money to pay for shelter and rent. And yeah, so it was not easy to become a refugee in another country, and to leave everything behind, all the people, all the family that you've raised with. So
And how long were
yeah,
you in Turkey?
I was in Turkey 2 years and 2 months. I had my son born there.
And while you were in Turkey, what were you hearing about what was happening to the Yazidi community back in Iraq?
It was a huge shock when I heard about genocide. I wish I was there. It was easy for me to be between my family, not hear from them. Because, like, when you hear about about something, it becomes a huge impact more than you experience it. I would say like I was lucky that I was in another country, but still like those families that I was raised with, they raised me and then they paid for everything for me. So when I heard about genocide, I don't know, like I don't have like big words to express my emotion, but I became very emotional like at that stage when I say when I called my family and they said we are running away, like stop calling us, it's all we're just running to save our lives. All my family, they run away from ISIS, and then ISIS, they attacked their villages, they destroyed everything. My village was close to Mosul, so it was easy for them to get into my village. The good thing is that my family, they heard about ISIS and then they run away fast. So that thank God they were not abducted by ISIS. However, other regions of Yazidi, like Sinjar, who are the like most Yazidi religion, they live there. That was the big impact on Yazidi religion because most people from Yazidi religion, they live there. And then, so it was, I don't know, like if you have seen it from movies or from the articles, if you have heard anything about Sinjar. But Sinjar, you know, like they killed elderly people because they said they were useless. And then they separated men from women. They took their kids away from them. They took their young kids to slavery. Like any type of atrocity that you could imagine, that you could see in the movies, they did to our religion, a Yazidi religion in Sinjar.
Thank you for giving us that description. I know it's hard for you. So you're in Turkey for a little over 2 years. You're a UN certified refugee, and you find your way to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Lisa comes into the story. Lisa Nerman is a member of Adat Israel. She works at Jewish Immigrant and Aid Service, JIAS. She's a Jumpstart coordinator and resettlement worker. And so Lisa, I'm hoping you could tell us about your role, how you connected with Faheema, and what it means to bring in refugees to Canada, help them resettle, and particularly what it means for you as a Jew and working as a Jewish agency to do that for people who aren't Jewish.
Thank you, Rabbi Cutler. I just have to say it's such an honor to be on this with Faheema. And I'm so grateful to the Adat Israel community for welcoming me when I was in my greatest time of loss. I'm proud that we are doing this today. So I'm very passionate. Those of you who know me know I'm a passionate person. I'm very passionate about refugee work and resettlement. And we've gotten questions, especially when we this process of, you know, why is the Jewish community, why is work? Well, I don't think you have to go much farther than listening to Faheema's story to identify as a Jew why we should morally doing this work. We ourselves, at the last century, how many hundreds of refugees after the Holocaust, and how many people didn't. Farther back, we go back to the time of, it says in Deuteronomy, you must befriend the stranger for you Egypt. 6 times to take care of or love the stranger. And so it's no coincidence that we're doing this today. Near Pesach Shabbat is this coming Shabbat. And there's going to be globally shuls participating in this Refugee Shabbat to recognize that it's immoral, and I believe for us to be caring for refugees. So JIAS is, we have the privilege of being the only Jewish organization able to bring in to sponsor refugees. And of course, this is very important because as Jews, we want to make sure that Canada will always be open to Jews if they're Jewish refugees. But in addition to that, you know, there are now 26 million stateless people. So it's really important that we as Jews, you know, remember what it was like for our grandparents, or for some of us who are parents are, thank God, still alive, who were refugees. So this work has given me meaning, and working, so my colleague Faheema is part of the Yazidi community, and that is one of the refugee communities that JIAS is assisting. And the Yazidi community in particular, I feel that we as Jews have a real simpatico to. If you listen to Faheema's story, and if you read, there's a book called The Last Girl that I recommend everyone read. I identify it, you know, as the stories that I've heard from survivors. And so, you know, the separating of men and women and all of that she talked about, and becoming slaves, just as we were slaves in Egypt, but it was the women who were slaves, the men were all killed. So I work with a lot of very highly traumatized single women who are trying to sort of just get through their days now that they live in Canada. And so it's also very exciting that the Jewish community has taken such an interest in refugees. So many synagogues and individual groups of 5 have decided to bring in refugees. So I guess I would say to my Adith community, who I adore, how can you help? How can we help? How can you, and so in JIAS, so we have volunteers, we have hundreds of volunteers, many who are working with refugees. I have this wonderful Jewish woman who is assisting one of my Yazidi clients to deal with all her doctor's appointments. She has 4 children, 1 developmentally disabled. And there are so many appointments. And this is a woman, as Faheema said, she's not literate. She can't use a calendar. She can use WhatsApp, but she can't use the calendar on her phone. You know, she doesn't read numbers. So we have a volunteer who's helping do that. So we have those opportunities, but there's also being a privately sponsored, like so many of the synagogues have done, is also raising money. And I'm on a mission. I mean, not everyone in JIAS, we're all very passionate about all the refugees. We bring in a lot of African refugees. A lot of the shuls are sponsoring Africans from Israel to alleviate that problem that we have in Israel with African refugees. But I'm now working so closely with the Yazidi, and if you listen to their stories, some of these people, we know of one young woman who just got let out of ISIS. You know, she's a young girl. Her family's here. How do we get her here? Because, you know, it's so, and there are many, many stories of family members who went through these horrors and want to come here. So that's where our privately sponsored program comes. And we are actually having, if anyone's interested, Rabbi Cutler can send you the information, or I can. There is actually a workshop to sort of just give you an idea of what it means to be a private sponsor. So I hope that answered your question. I know I went beyond the question, but as I said, for me, it's provided me extreme meaning with refugees, and to work with someone like Faheema, who I'm incredibly proud of every time she does something new that she's not done before, like what she's done today.
Well, thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Faheema. As you were saying, our Torah over and over again reminds us to remember that we were once slaves in Egypt. And out of that pasuk comes a moral requirement of us to be cognizant of those who had their own experience in their own Egypt, and to be welcoming to the stranger. And we, I hope, can be a community that continues to welcome that stranger, to support them. I know it's personally remarkably gratifying. And those people who I know have done private sponsorships have often found it to be amongst the most meaningful things they've ever done in their life. We live in a very small bubble here. And when we look beyond our own community, we look halfway around the world and realize the need and the ability to really transform someone's life from a stateless refugee in Turkey or elsewhere to a developed country like Canada, where you don't have to worry and you don't have to be afraid about what you're going to eat or who's going to send you the next death threat. It can change your world, and it can certainly change the world of somebody else. So if anyone is interested in getting more involved in this, I'm happy to connect you with Lisa. And thank you all for listening and to watching. This Shabbat is Refugee Shabbat across North America. And I encourage you to go to JIAS or HIAS in the United States and see every good thing that's happening on this topic. Bye-bye, everyone.